Neil Manthorp. We like to check in with you about news in South Africa, which has not been great on the whole over the last year or so. The short version, the Cliff Notes version, is we've got the South African Cricket Members Council, that's the head of the provincial organisations, largely ceremonial in theory. Then we had the board, which was about half made up of members of the Members Council as well. But the other members of the Members Council voted to sack the board, even though the ones who were on the board didn't. Then we had an interim board, which the Members Council was supposed to institute as a more permanent body with some changes, and they're refusing to do it, and shit has hit the fan. Can you first tell us what the hell is going on? Try to give us a picture of what's happened in the last few days.
Current Sports Minister Nathi Mthethwa appointed the interim board in October last year in order to implement the changes that should have been made over 10 years ago. They've come up with a draft memorandum of incorporation in which there will be a majority independent board chaired by an independent director, much as is the case in England, New Zealand, Australia, and now even India. The board, the Members Council, however, and that comprises the presidents of the 14 provincial unions. And just to rewind here, to give you an example of what they've done and what they stand to lose, one of the recommendations of the Nicholson report back in 2011 was that there should be a small payment for directors, as a recognition of the fact that the amateur days of sports administration, cricket administration were over. They needed, he said, independent professional directors with skills that were suitable to run the game of cricket, and they should be compensated for their time. An independent remunerations company, and I didn't know they existed, but there are companies whose sole purpose is to tell other companies how much they should pay their employees. Now, they recommended 96,000 Rand a year, which isn't much, divided by whatever your currency is, 20 in the case of the pound. So it's not much, it's £4,500 a year. So basically just over £1,000 for 4 meetings per year. And that was to cover, preparation time, reading time, and just to as a recognition that the directors were professionals. That came to 96,000.
A gesture almost.
But not so much in South Africa. Bear in mind that a beer still only costs 10 Rand here. But in the intervening 10 years, the Members' Council voted to increase that 96,000 a year to closer to 420,000, which is a significant amount of money, let me tell you. And so many of the provincial presidents, the Members' Council, don't want to give up not just the prestige and the power. They certainly play a role, but it's the cash and the perks as well.
Right. So they're very keen to hang on to their own positions as members of the board, because they're presumably not being paid to be on the Members' Council, but they are being paid to be on the board.
Yeah, but there's perks and privileges that come with for the Members' Council members who aren't on the board. So you can see the problem. You have a board of directors which is overseen by the Members' Council as the highest decision-making body in Cricket South Africa. The Members' Council, they oversee the board, but the majority of the board is also on the Members' Council. So they're judge and jury.
Yeah,
prisoner and prison warden.
Slight conflict of interest, one might say. So, but what's been going on in the last week or so has basically been that the sports minister is threatening to withdraw Cricket South Africa's ability to put out a team that claims to be representing South Africa. Is that more or less what's going on?
That's right. Yeah, he will intervene. He can do two things by law. One is withdraw funding, and that's completely inconsequential because it's less than R1 million a year, and it's R1 billion industry. So that's inconsequential. But as you say, he can withdraw the awarding of official colours. In other words, the national team will no longer be representing South Africa. And that obviously constitutes government intervention in the running of the sport. But as I understand it, and this is really interesting, as I understand it, the ICC can't be proactive in suspending an affiliate or an associate for government intervention. They can't say, we don't like the look of what's going on there. They have to be reactive. In other words, Cricket South Africa in this case, or Zimbabwe cricket as it was 18 months ago when they were suspended, they have to say to the ICC, we are being interfered with. It doesn't sound very good, does it? So the Members' Council, in effect, will have to go to the ICC and say the government is intervening in the running of our sport. Then the ICC have to make a decision.
But then that decision can be to ban South Africa from competing. So why would the Members' Council have any incentive to make that complaint, as opposed to just continuing to try to push through and say, oh, well, we're the South African team, we don't care if you recognise us or not?
You see the problem. You've spotted the car crash before it actually happens, Jeff. It's going to be really interesting to see what the Members' Council do. At the moment, they have shown scant regard for the players and the health and safety and well-being of South African cricket. So it may well be that they decide to call the minister's bluff and appeal to the ICC and say that the minister has interfered in the administration and the running of the game. Therefore, you have to suspend us. So it would be, Cricket South Africa wouldn't be banned. The Proteas, the national teams, wouldn't be banned as such. That implies, long term or in perpetuity. But the CSA's membership of the ICC could be suspended until the impasse is broken. But you know what? I mean, the men's team is supposed to go to the West Indies in June, Ireland for six games in July, Sri Lanka in August. They're supposed to go to India just before the T20 World Cup for another white ball series there. They've got a lot of cricket coming up. And then, of course, there's a T20 World Cup in November. And then South Africa are suspended for even 3 months, but 6 months, and it would be immediate bankruptcy. Because the other thing is, sponsorship revenue would dry up immediately, and that's at an all-time low because of all of the maladministration and the lack of governance. But television revenue, and here's the thing, and I've spoken to the broadcasters, they all say, of course we wouldn't be interested in televising unofficial internationals. They contractually, Cricket South Africa are bound to provide X number of international matches, and they have to be official.
Right.
You can't say, listen, we're still going to play India, but they're going to be friendlies. Are you interested in broadcasting them?
Well, maybe you just have to bring in other teams. We'll have India play Sri Lanka in South Africa, and you can telecast that. So, how is it that the people on the Members' Council who've created this impasse, how is it that they're kind of how vulnerable are they to being replaced? What recourse is there for anyone to try to get rid of them via other means, or are they impervious?
Well, I mean, see, they're all elected by their provinces for a 4 or 5 year term. So eventually those terms will run out. But what's happened in South African cricket for decades and decades is that the nepotism and cronyism and provincial bias, obviously, that exists at domestic level means that more often than not, it's a like-for-like replacement. Right. Occasionally handpicked by the outgoing president. So we're not talking about a few bad apples. We're not talking about a bad crop at this particular time in South African cricket. We're talking about a rotten tree that needs to be cut down and another one planted.
And where do you think this might go? I mean, it feels like a game of chicken at the moment. The Members' Council they've gone past the initial deadline for them to sort something out that the sports minister gave them. But how far can it go, and how much damage can be done?
Well, I thought that we reached the end of the road at least 6 times in the last couple of years. But as I said, the tree needs to be cut down. And if that means, I can't believe I'm going to say it, but I mean, if that means Cricket South Africa being suspended as an affiliate member of the ICC, then if that's the only way to get rid of the Members' Council, then and to create a new structure, then I'm at that point now. I feel desperately sorry for the players men and women who make a living out of the game, and whose career, and would be affected, desperately badly affected. But it is a game of chicken. You're absolutely right. Now, the Members' Council issued a statement this morning. So you've got the interim board issuing statements, and then the Members' Council issuing counter statements. The Members' Council issued a statement this morning which had one tiny glimmer of hope in it. They said, "We do not believe the situation is unresolvable." But they then went on to give about 15 examples of exactly why it would be unresolvable. But I think that the minister has said that he's going to go ahead and intervene and clear the decks and restructure cricket as much as the law will allow him to do. He also said that he would start that process next week. So we have another week of everyone sitting on tenterhooks and just worrying about the future. I'm brushing up on my rugby skills because the Lions are coming here, and I think I might be in for a career change.
To jump sports. And then the other deeply sad story that came out just north of you in Zimbabwe, Heath Streak being banned for 8 years for enabling corruption, match fixing, while being a coach, which just seems an extraordinary sort of thing, given that he was supposedly one of the few people of integrity in Zimbabwe cricket through that period when they were competitive, when he was the kind of spiritual leader of that team almost. It felt desperately sad that he was the person who was involved with this sort of thing.
It was a desperate shock, absolutely desperate shock. I am close to Heath. I've spent a lot of time with him when he was Zimbabwe national coach. I was helping out in the media department there, and I spent a lot of time with him. I find it quite difficult to talk about, and I've turned down a number of requests for interviews and chats and that kind of thing. All I would say, two things, is that he remains a kind and empathetic and generous person. And the second is that he has admitted the offences. I find it really hard to stomach that he attempted to get rid of evidence, destroying SIM cards and wiping his phone and initially denying everything. But I can tell you the ICC have known about it, or the ICC's anti-corruption unit have known about it for years. And I mean, going way back to the beginning of 2019, which is when I first heard the first rumours. So, he has admitted the offence. He's always liked a bit of cash. He's always had a weakness. It reminds me of Hansi Cronje and his self-confessed love of money. Now, there were reasons. I mean, him and his father run an enormous game farm just outside of Bulawayo with enormous costs. And let me just tell you, Heath has not been coaching for the love of it. He's needed the income, I can assure you. And so an 8-year ban is it's going to have enormous repercussions and consequences for him, his father Dennis, the family, all their staff, their workers. I mean, he has made a catastrophic mistake, and he's going to pay immensely for it. And he knew the consequences. I mean, he coached in the Afghanistan Premier League, the Indian Premier League, the Bangladesh Premier League. He's been through umpteen hundred safety and security and corruption, anti-corruption briefings. He knew the consequences. He knew the risks that he was taking, and he's going to have to live with that.
Thank you for talking to us about it. It's obviously very emotional.
Well, yeah, it is. But you know what? We all support the system, don't we? I mean, I can't imagine that anybody in this room thinks that being banned for taking part in any aspect of corruption is a bad thing. And can I just say one other thing as well? A few people have said to me, he never actually fixed a game. He never actually fixed a game, as if that's something, as if that's somehow a lesser crime. It's like saying, I didn't shoot him. Okay, I hired the guy who did, but I didn't shoot him. Well, I mean, we hiring a killer's. Maybe that's an unfair analogy. I think it probably is inappropriate analogy, but you know what I mean? As you said, you used the word enabling right at the beginning.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to, the position of responsibility, and then potentially, leading people who are younger and stupider and more vulnerable to do things that are going to damage their lives as well.
Yeah, and if just one young player is able to recover from the inspiration, the loss of inspiration that Streak provided, and is able to learn and be scared, knowledgeably scared about the consequences of getting involved in the nefarious world of underground betting, then some good will have come of it. But at the moment, it doesn't feel like much good's come of it. But it's the right thing.
Yeah, it never does. Neil, I know you've got to run, but thank you very much for joining us again on The Final Word.